a day of jaw-dropping numbers and a night of hard questions and deep thoughts. As Kenya records its highest number of coronavirus cases, the country is yet again asking very hard questions, even as the numbers tell a different story about where we are going with this pandemic. This is Business Insight. We are live and we are online. My name is O'Brien Kimani. I wanted to take you through the figures of where we are and how the situation is in the last 24 hours. Come over to the Super War. In the last 24 hours, the number of people tested again, the highest as well, 6,754. Confirmed cases, 796. If you do your calculations, you realize that this is almost 12% of all the tested cases. And the recoveries stands at 378 in the last 24 hours. You see, the concern is when you have confirmed cases almost double the number of recoveries, that cause for deep thoughts and hard questions. In the last 24 hours as well, we have lost 3 people. And so far, this is the total tally. 260,000 people have been tested so far for coronavirus. The number of confirmed cases at 15,604, recoveries at 7,135, which tells you that the number of confirmed cases, or we still have about almost more than 50% of confirmed cases. They are yet to recover from the virus, and the number of deaths continue to climb on a daily basis at 263. And the question is, where are we going with these numbers? What story are they telling us? And what is the end game? Here we continue to urge you to restrict unnecessary movements, wear that mask always, wash your hands with clean water and soap, and sanitize as always. This is Business Insight. The highlights are coming up next.
We have 796 people having tested positive for this disease.
A record 796 people test positive for coronavirus, even as counties say they are ill prepared to cope with the surge in infections.
It is illegal and delinquent on the Speaker of the Senate to call senators here and adjourn us as if we're in a classroom. We are not school children. We are going to move for his impeachment because he has failed the Senate.
Motion in the offing to discuss the conduct of Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka over the contentious county's revenue allocation formula.
That let us take a step back, let us protect the lives of our people first. That is what we want to really emphasize.
Anybody to play cheap politics and cheap games with the revival of Mumias or revival of Nzoia or the reclamation of Pan Paper.
And Western Kenya leaders question privatization process of collapsed sugar companies and mineral mines in the region. It's O'Brien Kimani is my Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1. Is our Twitter platform. Good evening and welcome to this broadcast. Kenya has recorded the highest number of coronavirus infections in a single day after 796 people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. In addition, the death toll from COVID-19 disease is now 263 after 3 more patients succumbed. The Ministry of Health warns the cases are expected to surge between August and September, and the number of public should not put down their guard as the virus is quickly spreading countrywide. Espiritu Museo narrates.
The Ministry of Health is appealing to Kenyans to ensure they seek medical attention immediately they experience COVID-19 symptoms, saying most of fatalities are as a result of going to hospital when it's already too late.
So we do request you, really, to seek care should you feel unwell, to be able to approach the health facility, because it is detrimental if you come in late.
796 people tested positive for coronavirus, and 86% of the cases showed no sign or had mild symptoms.
Today is the day that we have actually recorded the highest number of positive cases since this pandemic struck. Out of the 6,754 samples tested in the last 24 hours, we have 796 people having tested positive for this disease. And this brings the total number of positive cases in the country to 15,601.
Of the 796 cases, Nairobi takes the lead with 539 cases, Kiambu with 63, Machakos 57, Kajiado 37, Migori 26, Kericho 15, Narok and Uasin Gishu 11 cases each, Laikipia 9, Nakuru 7, Busia 6 cases.
378 patients have recovered from the disease. Out of this number, 199 are from the home-based care program, while 179 are from various hospitals, bringing the total number of recoveries to 7,135. And
Meanwhile, Health Chief Administrative Secretary Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, speaking during the daily COVID-19 updates, regretted the rise in cases of domestic violence, especially against women and children during the coronavirus pandemic.
Close to 5,000 rape survivors have received medical treatment in health facilities during this period of the pandemic. Children below 18 years bear the greatest burden, as they comprise of 70% of these survivors, with 5% of these survivors being male.
As the Ministry of Health reiterates that the COVID-19 disease is now officially among communities, with only 3 counties spared, it is urging Kenyans to report to the next health facility once symptoms of this deadly disease persist. Purity Museo, Channel 1 News, Nairobi.
Still on the pandemic, governors are now admitting that it is impossible to 100% attain the 300-bed capacity for the coronavirus pandemic preparedness due to lack of finances. The county bosses, through the Council of Governors, say unless the National Treasury releases 30.8 billion shillings of their equitable revenue share for the 2019-2020 financial year, nothing much can be done by the devolved unit, and Kenyans must be prepared for the worst.
Shortage of funds in the counties is now threatening to curtail efforts to tackle the coronavirus pandemic currently tearing the country. The county bosses now blaming Treasury for the delay in releasing the 30.8 billion shillings in equitable share for the financial year 2019-2021.
Number 2, the growth and release of the equitable shares has remained stagnant from the year 2019-2020 to 2020-2021, with due delay having closed the financial year with a balance of 30.8 billion Kenya shillings.
Council of Governors Chair Wycliffe Oparanya says the delay in availing the fund will even affect salaries of county employees, which will even make matters worse.
And unfortunately, the fight against COVID-19 will be immensely compromised. The county governments were depending on these resources to finalize some of the isolation centers, buy equipment, and ensure the minimum 300-bed threshold is met. All that is now going to happen, including the pending bills that are expected to be there at the end of the last financial year.
So far, all 47 counties have a cumulative total of 11,934 isolation beds. 26 counties have attained isolation facilities with the 300-bed capacity threshold, a cumulative of 447 ICU beds with 437 ventilators, and 6 counties have certified laboratory facilities to carry out COVID-19 testing.
To me.
While giving the annual devolution status report, Oparanya indicated that the decreased economic activities in the county have diminished county government's own source of revenue collection from 40.3 billion shillings in the financial year 2018-2019 to 37.6 billion shillings for the financial year of 2019-2020. Hence, the need of National Treasury to do the needful. Kamche Menza for Channel 1 News.
Elsewhere, a section of senators are threatening to move to a motion to discuss the conduct of Senator Speaker Kenneth Lusaka in the ongoing impasse over the third basis for revenue allocation among county governments. The lawmakers allege Lusaka is being used by some outside forces to prevail upon the Senate to approve the contentious formula. On Thursday, the Senate prematurely adjourned a special sitting convened to debate, among others, the third basis for revenue allocation among counties.
Order.
For the fourth time, Senate Speaker Kenneth Lusaka has adjourned debate on the contentious third basis for revenue allocation among county governments. Suspension of Thursday's special sitting was met with furor and anger from a section of senators who accused Lusaka of playing to the whims of the executive.
It is illegal and delinquent on the Speaker of the Senate to call senators here and adjourn us as if we're in a classroom. We are not school children. We are going to move for his impeachment.
The stalemate is likely to delay the disbursement of budgetary allocation to counties, as well as drafting and debate on the county allocation of revenue bill.
That committee report has not been endorsed by even the committee members. So it's unfortunate that this happens in this country.
Some senators whose counties stand to benefit from the financial windfall, however, vowed to support the contentious report by the Senate Finance and Budget Committee.
The Constitution recognizes equity. So based on that, you must look at it from different angles. You can't just say we can't be equal. There is no way we'll be equal. It is about equity.
We want to ensure we come up with a middle ground where no county feels rejected and where there is justice to each and every citizen of this country.
If adopted by the Senate, the new formula will see some 18 counties lose close to 18 billion shillings in budgetary cuts. Meanwhile, former Health Cabinet Secretary Dr. Cleopa Mailu says he too was kept in the dark in the controversial contracting of the 63 billion shilling managed equipment service program for counties.
When I say I never saw the document, I might have signed the letter, of course, which I want to believe was drafted, and I want to believe the contents might be correct, to transmit to the National Treasury. And that doesn't mean I saw the contracts.
On Wednesday, former Attorney General Professor Gethu Muigai faulted the Ministry of Health for failing to adhere to his legal advice prior to the signing of the controversial contract. The Managed Equipment Service Program has come under extensive scrutiny, with governors alleging it is a waste of public funds and a scheme to defraud the public. For Channel 1 News, I am Edward Kabasa.
On politics, a section of leaders under the Western Kenya Solidarity Movement are demanding answers on the privatization process of collapsed sugar companies in the region and the gold and granite mining right in the Lihanda corridor. The outfit, led by ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi and Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula, has at the same time lauded the president for halting countrywide development tours by cabinet secretaries in the wake of coronavirus pandemic.
Amani National Congress party leader Musalia Mudavadi and Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula have come out strongly to demand transparency and accountability in the privatization process of local sugar farms and the role of the Privatization Commission in the undertaking.
Wananchi si wajinga, wanajua, wanaelewa, wanafahamu maendeleo ni nini, wanaona vile viwanda zao zimezoroteka. Wameambiwa ya kwamba madeni yamefutiliwa mbali, na ila unaona kiwanda cha Mumias bado kimeshikiliwa na wale ambao walikopesha Mumias pesa. Nzoia iko mahututi, mkulima hajalipwa, mawaziri waine wanaenda huko, wanaambia watu tumetoa madeni. Walipoulizwa wapi stakabadhi za kuonyesha ya kwamba Nzoia sasa haina deni.
The two political leaders have in the meanwhile called on all leaders to close ranks and support President Uhuru Kenyatta in fighting the coronavirus pandemic, lauding the president for putting a stop to development tours by a section of cabinet secretaries.
So right now, our appeal is that everybody needs to observe that. The gatherings we have seen, and particularly the special interest that Western Kenya has generated, is both a matter of consternation and also alarming, because the kind of activities that we have seen in Western Kenya are not being witnessed in any other part of the country. So we are calling upon all responsible leaders that let us take a step back, let us protect the lives of our people first.
Elsewhere, Central Organization of Trade Union KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli has urged politicians to adhere to government's directive banning political gatherings to avert further spread of COVID-19.
Na ndio kwa sababu tutafute siasa bora kuwalinda Wakenya. Na hii ni kazi ya viongozi wa wafanyikazi, viongozi wa vyama vya kijamii, viongozi wa kisiasa, viongozi wa vyama vya kisiasa, wabunge, ma-MCA, ma-senators, na viongozi wote ambao waliochaguliwa kuunga mkono initiative ya kuleta amani katika nchi yetu. Kwa hivyo nataka kuhakikishia na namuunga rais mkono, Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, kwa msimamo wake na pia kwa njia anayoifanya kuhakikisha kwamba Wakenya wako pamoja. Na hiyo ndio kitu sisi tunataka.
KANU sasa. KANU timiza.
The Kiambu County KANU branch has rebranded into a new political outfit, namely KANU Fresh. According to the party Women Congress leader Gladys Chania, the new outfit is modeled to accommodate the youth who are the majority in the country.
Women leadership is progressive. We want to have women leaders progressively mentored from grassroots to the corporate world, and that is what is KANU. We want to have our people who are elder than us with us, so that they can be the advisors that we need every day. Saying as KANU, we are all inclusive, and that is what we want. That is the face we want in Kiambu County, and that is what GM Gideon Kipsiele Moi want, and that is why we are here bringing his word out.
She spoke after meeting delegates drawn from all the 60 wards in Kiambu County. The new office bearers were also elected during the meeting. For Channel 1 News, I'm Ben Troenjue.
KANU tingiza jogo. KANU tingiza.
Poverty and absentee parents are said to be fueling teen pregnancies in Baringo South constituency, where just one location has recorded a massive 30 cases since schools closed down following the coronavirus pandemic in March. The victims say the inability of their parents to provide them with basic commodities such as sanitary towels have forced them to be easy prey for men willing to part with money.
The rate at which the number of teenage pregnancies is growing in the country is alarming. In Perkera location of Baringo South, we encountered a case of more than 30 pregnant school-going girls, with others having delivered. When we sought to know about their predicament, they blamed them on poverty and negligence by parents. They say their parents are not just absent in their lives, but even those that show responsibility do not have the ability to provide them with the basic needs like sanitary towels. The situation making them gullible to men who are ready to part with cash and take advantage to satisfy their sexual desires. Caroline, not her real name, is a student at a local day school. She says most of her classmates are pregnant.
Na wanafunzi ni wengi wenye sai wako changamoto kama yangu nyako na mimba ya mapema. Tuko wengi sana. Kwanza hata classmate yangu karibu nusu ya darasa.
Jebet, also not her real name, finds herself in a similar situation, which she blames on poverty that has left her parents unable to provide for the family.
Ile nilikuwa kama nataka pesa ya kununua kitu, nikiambia wasasi hakuna mwenye ananipatia, ananiambia enda kibarua ndio upate. Sasa sikia iko kibarua. Kabidi tu hata kupata mtu anakupea pesa inabidi tu uchukue ndio kama kuna hiyo kitu ulikuwa unataka kununua itabidi ununue nayo pesa.
Diana Chepotibin, the coordinator of a local organization, Women Empowerment and Advocacy Network Kenya, which seeks to not only empower the girls but also educate them, saying the state of affairs in the area is worrying.
Most of them actually are facing a lot of challenges. Like here we have about 10 girls who are already pregnant. Others have children at home and they are school going. Others just dropped out of school because of challenges here and there. Some of the challenges that they addressed is like lack of money. Some of them don't have the courage to face their mothers or their parents and even ask for these small essential items, which are very essential, by the way. They should be made. Even they are, we can say, basic needs for the girls, to get sanitary towels, to use them while at home.
Assistant Chief of Perkera Location, Martha Chebi, has joined the Chepotibin-led network in calling for the intervention from stakeholders to save the situation.
A dire situation indeed there in Baringo County. You're watching Business Insight. We still have more, including what's happening in the business world, but that is after we are back after this break.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Coca-Cola, taste the simple joys.
Jumapili hii kwenye runinga ya KBC, ungana naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu kuanzia saa 1 hadi saa 2 asubuhi.
Ningetaka nikwambie, our Jehovah God, because the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today and forevermore. He is able to take you to a place of abundance. He is able to take you to Rehoboth in the name of Jesus Christ.
Kipindi ni neno la neema, ukiletewa naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu. Usikose.
It's 3 years since inception of the current Nairobi City County Government. Health, roads and infrastructure, education and social services development are some of the major achievements made by the Nairobi City County Government Administration. Join us as we take you through the journey of the milestones since inception in August 2017.
A section of civil society groups in the country have rejected the ongoing process of the selection of the next prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, ICC, at The Hague in the Netherlands. The civil society groups, claiming to be friends of the court, have poked holes on the process of replacing Fatou Bensouda, whose term ends in June 2021, is skilled to favor one applicant who represented victims of the post-election violence in Kenya at the court.
The process of replacing the outgoing ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda is underway, with the Committee on the Election of Prosecutor shortlisting 4 candidates for the position of prosecutor. Among those shortlisted are Fegal Gaino from Hireland, who represented victims of the post-election violence in Kenya, Maurice Anya from Nigeria, Susan Okalanya from Uganda, and Richard Roy from Canada. With the next step in the process being hearings for shortlisted candidates, a section of civil society groups in the country claim the process has been choreographed to lead to a particular candidate.
Bensouda, yule prosecutor wa ICC, hawezi wacha kiti baadaye kichukuliwa na Muafrika mwenzake. Hii inamuachia Mkanada Mkanada na mtu kutoka Irish, raia wa kutoka Irish. Mkanada kwa wakati huu sasa naibu wake ni Mkanada. Kwa hivyo hatuwezi kuwa na prosecutor ambaye ni Mkanada na naibu wake ni Mkanada. Kwa hivyo huyo hata yeye atapigwa kalamu. Kwa hivyo tunaonelea kwamba mtu ambaye ashachaguliwa ni huyu raia kutoka Irish.
Why should we have a process for recruiting a prosecutor, and that process directly and clearly favors one candidate?
The lobby groups claim while the decision to identify a prosecutor through a consensus by state parties was well advised, the manner in which the process is undertaken, including the intended hearings, will constitute an attempt to legitimize a flawed process.
And one of the candidates was the victim's lawyer. We have no problem with that. But if that person becomes the prosecutor, I think we have a feeling that she didn't do a very good job because the victims did not get what they were supposed to get. So most likely she either go there and mess up the process or try to redo her case.
The group now wants the entire process abandoned and state parties given the opportunity to present their nominees.
We are calling for cancellation of the whole process and an institution of a new process that is more inclusive of all the state parties rather than a skewed, stylish coronation of a single individual, thereby denting the credibility of the International Criminal Court.
Kenya's ambassador to the Netherlands, Lawrence Lenayapa, already rejected the 4 candidates shortlisted for the position of prosecutor of the ICC, questioning the process tailored to one candidate. Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
Away from The Hague, residents of Mihango in Embakasi East constituency, Nairobi County, are calling on private developers in the area to construct proper sewerage systems. Elsewhere in Machakos County, over 100 residents of Kisukioni, Matongolo area have staged a protest of a poor workmanship on a road under construction. There's more in our news making headlines in the counties.
Residents of Mihango in Embakasi East, Nairobi, are living in fear of the possible outbreak of waterborne diseases due to exposed raw sewage. Residents are calling on private developers to move with speed and construct proper sewage management systems, claiming owners of flats in the area are now discharging raw sewer to the roads at night.
Sisi wote tumechiba septic. Unaona, kila mtu ako na septic yake anafuruta. Hii anasema sio ya kwake. Na unaona visuri imetoka kwake, ameweka mfereji pale.
Elsewhere in Machakos County, over 100 residents of Kisukioni, Matungulu, have held a demonstration to protest the delayed construction of a road in the area.
Hii barabara miaka 3 inatengenezwa, kesho kukinyesha huwezi pita hapa.
Tutafanya nini serikali? Serikali saidia.
While in Mombasa County, 3 directors of 2 clearing and forwarding firms have been arraigned before a Mombasa court, charged with using false customs documents to evade paying tax amounting to over 1.7 million shillings. In West Pokot County, the Turkwel Dam is expected to spill over in the next 2 months following the increased volume of water if the heavy rainfall continues pounding the area. According to an alert from the Kerio Valley Development Authority that manages the facility, the dam has been left with only 7 meters to fill.
There's no cause for alarm. There's no danger with the dam spilling because the dam has its own mechanism on how to evacuate the excess water back to the river. However, we will continuously liaise with the county governments and local so that we are able to sensitize people that just in case that the dams spill over after 2 months, then people should not cross swollen rivers.
And finally, in Kisii County, a 32-year-old disabled graduate is appealing for employment.
I think now I'm becoming a burden to the community and to the family, since I thought education could be a key to my success.
Judith Oroko, who holds bachelor's degree in food and science nutrition from University of Eldoret, says she has been seeking employment for the last 4 years, but to no avail.
Somebody to help me and try me once. They will know that disability is not inability. It's just in people's mind.
Let's now have a look at international news, where the World Health Organization and the Africa Center for Disease Control, CDC, have formed a committee to advise and provide support into research into traditional remedies for COVID-19. WHO says the expert sitting in the committee will advise African countries on the science, safety and quality of traditional medicine. This as South Africa reports the highest single-day COVID-19 deaths. It's 572.
According to a statement by the WHO, the newly formed committee will support countries to ensure clinical trials of traditional medicines comply with international standards. The development comes at a time when Madagascar, which has been promoting a herbal remedy for COVID-19, is reported to be overwhelmed by the number of infected people. Nigeria said it had conducted tests and could not find evidence that Madagascar's herbal tonic actually works. Meanwhile, there are concerns that the death toll from the coronavirus in South Africa may be significantly higher than official figures currently show. In the last 24 hours, the country recorded a new high of 572 deaths, but a study of the past 10 weeks shows there have been 17,000 more deaths than usual for this time of the year. Currently, official figures show almost 6,000 people have died from COVID-19, meaning that about 11,000 deaths are unexplained. South Africa has the highest number of the novel COVID-19 in Africa and fifth globally. Elsewhere, 4 members of parliament in Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland, have tested positive for COVID-19 and have been moved into isolation. This brings the number of members of parliament who have tested positive to 6. In India, data from the health ministry indicate that the number of COVID-19 cases in the country has passed 1.2 million. India began to ease out of the March-imposed lockdown, but has reverted to the restriction measures amid a surge in new infections. India is the third worst hit country after US and Brazil. And lastly, Emirates has become the first airline in the world to guarantee to cover customers' medical expenses if they are diagnosed with COVID-19. The Dubai-based company said on Thursday it would offer free cover for COVID-19 medical expenses and quarantine costs, regardless of which class they travel in.
Sisi Kenyans, we don't poteza a chance to connect na watu wetu.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wait.
Undersea cables and telecom providers gave us reliable and affordable data. And we didn't Zuba. We now have close to 40 million internet subscriptions. So umesema ni nyanya ama kitungu?
Wewe umesikia nini?
And our mobile connectivity has helped us spread our biasharas wider.
Kijana mdogo kama wewe unafaa kuwa unanunua kama hizi, eh?
And now in these times of crisis, our telecom and data networks are enabling us to work from nearly anywhere. While new technologies open up a digital Kenyan economy that will leave no one behind.
Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako. The Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world.
My friend, yani wewe unajua kutime sana. Unangoja wakati tu nimekaa kwa nyumba peke yangu pole, nimenaosha mkono nikule nyama yangu. Saizi ndio unanipigia simu. Ulikuwa wapi wakati nilikuwa kwa duka huko naenda kutafuta unga nikuje nipike ugali?
Kupata unajua kutime sana, bonyeza star 811 star 815 hash. Bonyeza star 811 star 815 hash.
Utafanya hivi, itabidi hata wewe umengoja.
On the next episode of
Shetani mkubwa utanitambua mimi.
Shetani, anafanya nini?
Nilikuwa naimba, sio nijua.
Nilikuwa nimesahau simu yangu, sijui kama umeiona.
Sijaiona. Masudi ana nini?
Masudi anafanya nini?
Basi utakwambia mume wangu, wewe na huyo Masudi huyo, siku yenu itafika. Wasikia? Tena kama hujapakuliwa kule nje, usije kunisumbua mimi hapa, Wasikia? Nenda ukajipange. Si unajua jikoni maliliko? Niache mwenyewe kwa starehe zangu ndio mwenyewe nikajistiri, sawa?
Hatujali kazi zenu
So now for business. The new Auditor General has vowed to expedite the release of the much-delayed audit report for all public institutions. Nancy Gadongo says she has already established an in-house plan that will ensure the pending audited reports for state entities are released before the end of this year. Gadongo made the remarks during a handover ceremony for the outgoing Auditor General, Edward Olko. Kenya has been operating without an Auditor General for the last 11 months after Edward Olko's term expired last August. Efforts to fill the constitutional office have been rocky and controversial, and in some cases marred with legal disputes. However, after many months of back and forth, Nancy Gadongo was sworn in last week as the country's second Auditor General. Gadongo, who assumed office today, has vowed to fast-track the release of audited reports for the state and public entities.
By the end of next week, I should be issuing some of these reports. And moving on, we'll continue issuing them. Hopefully, by end of August or September, we shall clear the backlog for 18-19, because we are also simultaneously or concurrently planning for the 19-20, which has caught up with us.
The public is yet to peruse the state's audited reports for the 2018-2019 and 2019-2020 fiscal years, raising concerns about the public expenditure plans. Gadongo says already the reports are done and completed, and they are just waiting for her signature before they are released to the public.
We have already met with my senior members of the team, and we've agreed on how we are going to prioritize the audit reports. We are starting from the simple to the complex, such that those that are already at the level of the Auditor General for issuance are the ones we are going to start with. We have a team already looking at those reports, sorting them out, and we will, as I said in my speech during the swearing-in, look at the listed entities, look at the development partners, and move on. We have a few organizations that have syndicated loans. Those are some of the very, very critical entities we'll start with.
The Auditor General's post has in many instances collided with many state agencies due to explosive audit report that has caused public uproar.
I'm confident that you're going to tailor our shoes, which will one day, in hindsight, will be even bigger than Owuko's. And I will be able to be one of the people to say, Kenyans, you are wrong. There are bigger shoes to be created.
Gadongo has tipped Parliament to amend the law to create a position of a Deputy Auditor General to ensure smooth workflow at the agency. The law has no provision for an acting Auditor General, creating a huge work backlog during a period of transition. The Israeli government is keen on reviving the Galana Kulalu Food Security Project contract between Green Arava and the National Irrigation Authority. Israeli ambassador to Kenya, Audit Joseph, says government-to-government talks between the two nations are ongoing to resolve the contract standoff for development of the 10,000-acre model farm.
The National Irrigation Authority has been scouting for new contractors to complete the remaining 15% work at the 10,000-acre model farm at the Galana Kulalu Food Security Project after the fallout with the initial contractor, Green Arava of Israel, over contract terms. According to the National Irrigation Authority, despite paying 5 billion shillings, Green Arava only completed 85% of the work, with the contractor accusing the NIA of not meeting its contractual obligations. The Israeli embassy says government-to-government talks to revive the contract are ongoing, despite the National Irrigation Authority repeatedly stating that it had terminated the contract with Green Arava.
Don't want to yet prematurely say what will be the outcomes of those discussions, but this is part of the discussion. And I know that there are different ideas of what to do with Galana Kulalu, but as I said, the more accurate description of where we are is that there are ongoing discussions between Israel through the embassy and the relevant Kenyan agencies to define exactly that.
Audit termed the Galana model farm as a success, adding that Israel is seeking to increase its agricultural investments in Kenya.
Do we learn from the investment that took place and still takes place in Galana Kulalu? Do we learn from those lessons to go to the next phase in an improved manner? My question to that is definitely there is a way to that, and that's my focus.
As plans of the investment strategy, the Israeli government plans to start offering seed capital to some of the 100 trainees it airlifts to Israel annually.
We would pick what we would find the three most promising business proposals. And for those three most promising business proposals, we would offer a potential grant from Israel to supplement what they would receive from their own revenues and from the loans.
The trainees will also be linked with financial institutions, relevant regulators, and Israel companies to help them effectively participate in the agriculture value chain. He called for increased investments in the agriculture sector to mitigate against potential food shortages post-COVID-19 pandemic. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
The war on poaching in Kenya is bearing fruits with an all-time low of 6 elephants poached since the start of the year. Tourism and Wildlife Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala says the elephants were poached in remote areas outside national reserves and parks, an indication of heightened protection in the wildlife site. Balala says increased encroachment is now threatening the wildlife habitat.
Wildlife poaching has been a threat to the survival of endangered species in Kenya, especially elephants and rhinos. The numbers have been on a downward curve, from 302 elephants poached in 2013 to 38 in 2018. Since the beginning of this year, 6 elephants have been poached, the lowest ever reported. Tourism officials say this is an indication of the success of the war against poaching.
But the numbers have dropped drastically. Last year's figure were, I think, 24 elephants poached. The previous year were about 36 elephants poached. So you could see that our numbers have gone down, and we have managed to tame these evil behavior of people, particularly the greed for the ivory.
Heightened protection in national parks and reserves has not only seen reduced poaching incidents involving elephants, but also an increase in births of rhinos, with a staggering 31 rhino babies born this year.
31 of them. And we have brought this new concept. Every baby, if you want to name, you pay 100,000 Kenya shillings. All the 31 baby rhinos have been bought in terms of 100,000. So 3.1 million shillings have been raised, and that money is going specifically to the Rangers Fund.
The CS has, however, flagged encroachment and illegal hunt for game meat as the new challenges.
Because we need to secure these assets. Otherwise, encroachment in terms of grazing continues. Encroachment in terms of charcoal burning continues. And every illegal activity will penetrate if we don't secure these properties.
6 elephants poached since the beginning of the year. Tourism Cabinet Secretary says the war against poaching continues, and that the acquisition of titles for all national reserves and parks will be done by 2021 to ensure that encroachment is curbed. Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 News.
The Kenya Airports Authority has decentralized boarding procedures at Wilson Airport to allow airlines to screen, check in and board passengers from their respective terminals in line with protocols issued for travel operations during the COVID-19 pandemic. Acting Kenya Airways or Kenya Airports Authority Managing Director Alex Gitari says the move will offer an impetus to the industry amid anxiety of COVID-19 disruptions.
COVID-19 disruptions threatened to ground aviation operations on a global scale.
I want to also appreciate the aviation sector in general for how it has responded to the decision to resume operations. The information I have is that the takeoff has been quite positive, particularly here at Wilson, which is a nerve center of our domestic operations. I'm told so far we've done on average about 60% in terms of aircraft movements, probably much lower in terms of passenger movement, but that is a good start.
Early this month, President Uhuru Kenyatta, in his COVID-19 update to the nation, announced the resumption of flights, with domestic ones taken to the skies last week, while international flights are to resume flights next month.
Because it's not been easy with these challenges of COVID.
started shutting down sections of the industry, we knew that there are some people who would shut down and stay shut. And even now, we are seeing that even in a subsector in tourism. We are seeing some people who are really hesitating to come back. And mainly, it has a lot to do with maybe they didn't have enough reserves, or maybe the business model does not support a protracted shutdown. So we want to congratulate you for being able to reopen.
The decision has been lauded as a significant milestone in the aviation industry, which is a catalyst for other key sectors such as tourism, manufacturing, and agriculture. In line with protocols issued for air travel operations during COVID-19, the Kenya Airports Authority has decentralized boarding procedures at Wilson Airport, allowing airlines such as East African Safari Air, Air Kenya, Safari Link Aviation, Bluebird Aviation, and Z, Bosvik Air Charters to screen, check-in, and board passengers from their respective terminals.
We invested in refurbishment of this lounge all the way to the exit gate, but what you want to hear is our security, what we've done with our security. We've trained our staff all the way in aviation security to the level of certification by KCA, KA. We had a teacher who is approved by KCA, AKO, and IATA.
The latest entrant in the domestic air business is the East African Safari Air that will fly to Wajir, Homa Bay, and Isiolo from Wilson, as well as other destinations within the country.
We are part of government. We've done something little on our part, and I hope the industry has appreciated that. But to the extent that we can do more, we shall certainly extend the helping hand to get the aviation sector to spring up from the very tough situation we find ourselves in.
Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
You're watching Base Insight, and of course, we are live and on air. A short break is well deserved. We are back with more stories. Stay right here.
To read their Bible daily, they become wiser and they become stronger than the people who don't read their Bibles. So when you choose hard, difficult things, you become a natural leader. He brings us to church to introduce to us another higher level of relationship that is called a faith relationship. You are also a solution to somebody else's problem. You cannot be the only problem all the time.
Join Pastor Jimmy Masharia on The Master's Touch this Sunday from 8 a.m. on KBC Channel 1.
I cannot allow another competitor to stand against Siamak.
I won't let that happen, Noor. If Dharma's son is alive, then I will have him killed.
Father, you'll have to do something about Ashok. Because he has gone in search of Dharma. If we don't do anything, then he will succeed in finding her.
We have some rules out here, Jamban. A warrior is respected here. And this boy is a true warrior.
On the next episode of Corner.
Alone. Weren't you the one who was speaking out against loans the other day?
I changed my mind.
That was fast.
Walter sent him.
I think that's what we'll have to assume. But of course, you have no proof.
And that useless PI of mine seems to be sleeping on the job.
I can keep digging.
No.
What's Sebastian making you do this time? You look fishy. There's something you want to tell me? Simon?
Retailers delaying payment to suppliers past the stipulated 90 days are under intense scrutiny from the Competition Authority of Kenya, seeking to reduce buyer power abuse cases. The process, which came into the limelight 3 months ago, has seen 4 out of 25 retailers flagged for delayed payments to suppliers. Betty Kiptum is our reporter. She sought to find out from the Retail Traders Association of Kenya CEO Wambui Barire issues bedeviling the sector and how they are addressing them.
In 2019, the Oxford Business Group rated Kenya's retail sector as the second best performing in Africa, second to South Africa, and just tying there with Nigeria. We want to find out how the sector is performing currently, especially with the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, and how the future looks like. To give us these insights is Wambui Barire. She is the Chief Executive Officer at the Retail Trade Association of Kenya. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you, Betty. I think I'll pick it off from your point of Oxford in 2019 said we are second. So yes, we are second to South Africa. We have we say that we range between 27 and 30% being formal retail. We have a very large informal retail sector in this country. Now, the formal bit of retail is, for most Kenyans, retail means supermarkets, but really, retail covers furniture, fashion, eateries are part of that, guys who do books, apparels, so all that falls under the retail sector, and it's part of what forms the membership of the association. We look to grow the sector beyond the 30% that has been, I think in the last 10, 20 years, we've stuck between 27 and 30% of the formal retail. We look to grow that as the country develops and people start looking for the convenience and incomes grow to allow you to shop in greater bulk. The reason our informal sector is so large is because the average Kenyan income is limited to to sharing the money you earn from your housing, your accommodation, education for your children. So you look to shop where you can break bulk, and the place you can break bulk is normally in the informal sector. So because of limited incomes, that sector continues to grow, and it gives us pretty much stiff competition. The other advantage of the informal sector is that it gives credit, which supermarkets will give. So that sector continues to grow. And as we develop, I think even that informal starts turning into formal in their own way.
The sector gives very limited margins, and over the past, say, few years, the struggle of the economy, or rather a tough business environment, has affected this sector quite a bit. Could you just give us an insight into that?
So you must aim to sell more to be able to make a return. If you're dealing with volumes, it means then you really must be on top of your cash flows. And the cash flow has been what has been an issue within the sector. Managing the cash flows within the 30 days or 60 days or 90 days that you and your supplier have agreed as payment terms, that is where the challenge would be. Yes, so we should, most retailers look to sell the volumes, and as you sell the volumes, then the small margins will add up to your overheads. Again, the overheads are way higher than what the margins accommodate. So you need to do a lot of checks and balances to ensure that you're able to manage that money you're making, A, to pay your suppliers, and most importantly, to pay your suppliers on time, and B, to continue having stocks on your shelves. And then, of course, being able to manage your overheads, be it electricity, be it your staff costs, be it any promotions you're doing internally, be it a new branch you're opening. So that cash flow management is very key for the survival of any retailer.
The survival, of course, has been tested for quite a number of these retailers, from the late payments that are being made, or just that backlog of debt, for suppliers. How are the retailers handling this?
If I take you back to about 2 years ago, when we were undergoing the Nakumatt challenges, government came in, and we as sector, and when I say sector, I refer to the retailer themselves and their suppliers, sat down and started working out supply agreements that we can jointly sign off on to ensure that we agree on terms of payment, failure to which we're still in the same regulations and which are still in draft form, put in a code of ethics, put in terms and conditions of if you do not, what then? In 2019, towards the end of the year and at the beginning of this year, some of the draft elements from the regulations were taken and confirmed in the CAK Act. Those elements give CAK the power to take action should any party default. Should it be the supplier abusing its position? Should it be the retailer abusing its position? And as you've seen in the newspapers, CAK has been on top of this issue in terms of ensuring that the retailers are sticking to the terms of payment. And it also gives the retailer an opportunity to explain any discrepancies that might arise that then lead to the delay in payments.
And when you mention that competition authority report, there was a recently released press release, the 25 that were requested for their debt portfolios, the 4 that showed that they had a bit of an issue of debt repayment, and also Tuskys was flagged. Yeah, what is going on? Because some people are thinking that it could go down the Nakumatt way. What is going on?
25 were tested, and 25 out of 25, only 4 were flagged, meaning the retail sector is not dying. The retail sector is not suffering. We have members who are having challenges, and they're working towards growing out of that. So out of the 25, 4 were picked out. 4 are working, as is Tuskys with the CAK, to redeem the situation. So it allows us to look inwards and see where our challenges, what is leading to this constant, shall I say, backlash in the media that shows that we are not paying. The other thing we always say as a sector is that a lot of people don't understand how retail works. I think we focus on the fact that every Kenyan who shops, on average, pays cash. So the question is always, so if we are paying all this cash, how come you as a retailer are then not able to honor your bills? And I'll go back to the question of the statement that you did on margins. So the margins are very low. We need cash and balances. Yeah, you need the check and balances to ensure that by the time the milk vendor comes back for his money, you've sold enough bread to pay the milk. So cash flow. It goes back to the cash flow. Yes, everyone pays cash, but because it's a margin thing and the margins are very low, the cash flow becomes a challenge if we are not on top of it. And some of the challenges are, in this country, we do not have a curriculum for retail. So people running retail are people with general skills that can work in retail. A lot of our retail is, again, family-owned. And family-owned means it started as very well a kiosk. And as a kiosk, your structures were basic. If you don't build on those structures as you grow, there's definitely going to be a challenge. And that has affected a lot of our retailers. Again, being family-owned and not having proper structures can lead to elements of corporate governance. Corporate governance, as cited often in the media again, has to do with, if I give a retailer as an example, are we also suppliers? Do we own and we're suppliers at the same time? Because then that conflict of interest can create a challenge. Again, back to the systems, how are we managing our inventory? And inventory relates a lot to now the pilferage. If you do not have a system that works from back end to front end, from receiving till the cash, till the till, you will have holes through which that particular product can fall through.
The pilferage issue is quite a big issue in the sector, and the estimates are that it costs 2.5% of total revenue, which is quite large. Yeah?
Which is quite large. Retail across the world suffers pilferage. The thing to do is manage how much that is. I think there's an acceptable percentage of 1%. So when we are 2.5, we're really way above. So coupled with the inefficiencies that we have, if you have 2.5% pilferage, really you're going to be sooner or later having a cash flow problem, and managing to have stock on your shelf will become an issue. The pilferage, in our case, a lot of it has to do with we have consumer collusion meaning at the till, I know you, we can pass through items without running everything. That happens. We have collusion between the supplier and the receiver. So at the receiving end, if the invoice says I got 10 crates of soda, did I actually get 10 crates or did I get 2? But the invoice is received. So there are shortfalls on both sides. It's sometimes retail led by that employee, or it can be supplier led by the supplier employee as well. So all those challenges create a lot of inefficiencies within our retail that can then lead to this very cash flow issues that we see.
For these retail chains, most of them it's by expansion that they increase their revenue. Is there something like responsible expansion or sustainable expansion?
I think we've learned a lesson. So anyone you see opening now has a thought to that plan. And I know what comes a lot is that in the recent past and to an earlier conversation, Naivas and Quickmart are opening branches very often. You will know that in both their cases, and that was also captured in the media, they have new investors in, and those investors demand corporate governance, demand thoughts and planning, strategy in any branch that is opening.
The sector was having a few challenges, of course, as I mentioned, because of the tough economic times we were going through already, and then the COVID-19 hit. Yeah. How has this affected the retail sector?
The non-essential retail has really suffered. You won't even yourself, Betty, go and buy a dress now, or buy new shoes, or buy a TV, unless really it is a total emergency. But you will definitely buy food. So the supermarkets have survived. They are in the food sector. I will tell you, right before the restrictions, because of panic buying, there was an upsurge in sales. Yeah. But when people do bulk buying, it usually means they won't shop for the next 2 or 3 months. So again, because of that, there was it slowed down at the beginning of the restriction. Then as we went into the restriction period, it kind of stabilizes. People buy less in terms of quantity, but food moves. Non-food factors within the supermarkets will not move. So the supermarkets have managed to stay afloat. The supermarkets that really suffered were those that have branches within the CBD, especially in Nairobi, because when the curfew was at 7 and public transport is not an essential service, no one was looking to leave the office at 4 and go shopping. You're looking to leave at 4 and get out of town as soon as you can. So maybe the informal sector then grew within that period because you're all shopping from within your neighborhood. Then now with the curfew moving to 9. With the curfew moving to 9, and even if you leave the office at 5, you have X number of hours until 9 o'clock. So you can afford to enter into a supermarket, pick a few items and still go. So again, with the extension of the curfew to 9 p.m., that has worked again for the supermarket sector. The non-essential sector continues to suffer.
Online retail has definitely picked up quite a bit during this time of the coronavirus pandemic. For most brick and mortar chains, they were mainly dependent on that. How has it changed now? A lot of formal brick and mortar retailers actually got online platforms with COVID, even those who didn't have. Those who had saw an explosion in that sector. Supermarkets, most of them have always had, especially the big players, have always had an element of online presence. But consumers didn't really utilize that option. I know of a supermarket that moved from 0 to 3,000 orders in a day when the COVID came. When you realize actually fly is flour, so really, I don't have to go to the supermarket to pick it myself. I could actually order it online. The thing that also works for brick and mortar in our country is that our infrastructure does not really facilitate online, especially the deliveries. I say online, when people say online has really picked up, they're talking about a Nairobi problem. It is really a Nairobi problem. If I'm sitting in even Kikuyu, let's say, even Kikuyu town or Kiambu town, it's still a growing concept. It's not
that now we really have online shopping going on here, you know. So because of our infrastructure, we don't have an efficient address system. Otherwise, you always will have to tell the Jumia guy, I live on the next stand next to the Safaricom kiosk right opposite the Coke kiosk. They see the church. I mean, so the infrastructure has not, especially outside Nairobi, and even in Nairobi, it's still, I mean, there's still challenges to actually getting efficient delivery.
So you think the brick and mortar players are adjusting? You know,
they will, yes. There will be that consumer who wants to shop online. So, and that adjustment has happened largely over the COVID period. So I guess that will continue to be developed as we go forward. So that will remain. Question is what will move online and what will remain in brick and mortar.
Quite an array of things will actually remain in brick and mortar, as you said. As we come to a close of this interview, we have established that, well, the sector is not crumbling. There is quite some positive stories from it here, and the ones who are struggling are doing something about it. So what is the future of the sector now?
We intend to grow. The potential of the retail sector in this country is seen by the number of foreign players who want to come into our sector. That is an indicator that the future for this particular sector is very bright. The thing that we are working as a sector and with government is to create a curriculum, because we need to, one, create career progression for people playing in the sector so that they stay in the sector and build it. It doesn't become a stopgap measure as you look for a job, I am doing this thing. It becomes actually the job. The other thing is, and I know I repeat this in very many forums, Vision 2030 saw retail and wholesale as very important, to where out of 6 economic pillars, that was one of the economic pillars. Retail allows for self-employment. So if we can formalize the sector, if we can put in a system that creates that curriculum so that when I go to school I can study the basics of retail, when I come out and start a business, I see it as a business, or I see it as a job that I can grow into, that I can set up my own retail and in the process create employment. Somebody did a research, I think Aga Khan University sometime last month. Out of that unemployed group, 72% of people leaving school, 72% of that group actually go into retail. But they're going into retail as a stopgap measure. Imagine if they went to retail like a serious process, the amount of wealth creation we would be churning out of that sector, employment opportunities, and our retail would explode to where we catch up with South Africa or perhaps even surpass their levels.
Thank you very much, Wambui, for giving us those important insights.
Thank you very much, Betty, for having me. I always appreciate an opportunity to speak about retail because I think it plays a very big role in this country towards contributing to the gross domestic product. Thank you very much.
Very important. Asante sana. Well, that was CEO in charge of Retail Trade Association of Kenya, that is Wambui Mbarire. And she has been giving us insights about how the retail sector is performing, the challenges it is facing, and giving us the message that the sector is strong and that there is hope in the future of the sector. Thank you for watching. Continue watching Business Insights. My name is Betty Kiptum. Do have yourself a good night. Bye-bye.
A donkey slaughterhouse based in Mogotio, Baringo County, has set up a donkey breeding ground in efforts to boost the population of donkeys. Gold Dogs Limited is also testing a Chinese technology that reduces the gestation period for donkeys. As Benson Rioba narrates, the government in February banned slaughtering of donkeys on concerns that the beast of burden was facing extinction.
In February this year, the government announced a ban in donkey meat trade after a sharp decline in the population of donkeys in the country. It is believed that the reducing numbers was being fueled by donkey abattoirs that have been increasing in recent years, driven by high demand of donkey products in China. In a bid to boost the population of donkey and allow the government to reconsider the ban of slaughtering of the beast of burden, Baringo-based donkey slaughterhouse Gold Dogs Limited has established a donkey breeding ground in the area.
After 2 years, we were concerned to see how we were receiving complaints that the donkey that the donkey number is decreasing, and so we moved in quickly and started this breeding farm.
The company, which currently has more than 300 donkeys, is also testing a Chinese technology that reduces the gestation period for donkeys.
Our director occasionally or a number of times has gone to China to do a benchmarking on how to breed donkeys with a reduced gestation period so as to be able to increase the donkeys within a shorter time, now that we know the animal breeds at a slower speed than the
Area residents at the slaughterhouse offer them jobs and a market for their donkeys.
Wengine tuko na kama factory one hapa Kenya ambayo wanafanya biashara ya kuchinja punda, lakini kwanza ya magoto ni kubwa kwa wale wote, na juzi walipata hata kotini, walisema wanaweza endelea na biashara yao. Sasa ile bado wanaangalia hizi malalamishi ya wale walienda kuambia waziri kusimamisha maneno ya kuchinja punda.
Before the ban was effected, animal rights activists estimated that 1,000 donkeys were being slaughtered daily to meet demand for donkey meat in China. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
As well, Telecom Kenya is in advanced talks with partners to offer customers in remote areas 4G-enabled smartphones in efforts to enhance connectivity, tap internet offered by Google Loans, and grow the telco subscriber base. Telecom Kenya CEO Mugo Kibati says after the successful launch of the Internet Loan project, the next phase for the company is to ensure that those living in remote area are powered to utilize the service. He spoke to our reporter Alan Aoko.
During these times of the COVID-19 pandemic, technology has helped businesses in continuity and of course even individuals in running their own affairs. And if you will, it is the few to whom we owe so much. And also just to delve into now the exciting world of the telecoms industry, the technology in that space, we are joined with the Executive Director and CEO of Telecom Kenya, Mr. Mugo Kibati, who will give us more insights into the exciting world of the technologies that are moving the telecoms industry forward. Welcome very much.
Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you.
So let's just dive straight in. What is Loon and why Kenya? Why Loon? Why Loon and Kenya at this time? Why did Loon choose Kenya as the first place for commercialization of this project?
Well, Loon is an alphabet company, a sister to famous Google, and Google is very well known. So Loon is a sister company to Google. Both of them are subsidiaries of the alphabet company, and Loon has been looking at this technology for quite a while now. But up to this point in time, this Loon-based technology, this Loon technology, which is balloon-based, basically these are aerial base stations. Now, for the balloons that we have floating some 20 kilometers, 6,000 foot up in space, you should think of it of double the height that your typical airplane flies. Those are aerial base stations, right? And they're very unique technology, developed by Loon, and up to this point in time has only been used or deployed in disaster recovery situations. Now, this is the first time it has been deployed in a commercial setting.
Mm-hmm. And as you talk about this exciting new technology, how is Telecom Kenya really, what is the role of Telecom Kenya in this technology?
Well, this is a very exciting partnership between ourselves and Loon. So Loon's role is to provide the aerial base stations, right? We provide the 4G signal. So remember that we have earth stations, or rather terrestrial stations, land stations. We transmit our 4G LTE signal from these land stations to the balloons, to the aerial base stations, and then they transmit across each other and eventually go back to your mobile device. So the signal comes from Telecom Kenya, and I think it's important also for me to clarify, very important, that what we are transmitting is essentially a 4G data signal. So we don't really have your typical 2G, 3G voice signal. It's a 4G data signal. But as you know, as technology develops in this day and age, a lot of people make data calls. Your WhatsApp call, your WhatsApp video call. You can make that on a Loon-based signal. But essentially, this is a data signal.
We did see a few days ago the Cabinet Secretary for ICT, Joe Musheru, testing out the 4G prowess of the technology in Baringo. We are wondering, is the technology ready for the rural area? What is the preparation in terms of making sure that even those in the rural areas are able to enjoy this technology?
So, Alan, we specifically chose to go to Radat in Baringo to answer your question, because there was no point testing it in Nairobi. We could have done a test in Nairobi or in some other urban center, because the balloons, they crisscross our airspace. They're not stationary, So that is why we're going to have a critical mass of balloons over our airspace, moving constantly, and one balloon moves on, a new one replaces it, and the signal seamlessly takes the new aerial base station takes over the signal from the prior aerial base station. So we felt very strongly we needed to go and test this particular service in an area that doesn't have terrestrial base station service, so that we could actually certify the quality, the viability of the signal. And that's what the Cabinet Secretary was doing in the conversation he was having with the President, and the President was able to talk to the people of Radat via a video call. New experiences. With these new technologies, we were able to give the citizens of Radat an experience they've never had before. Being able to have a one-to-many video voice call where they were engaging the President and he was engaging them back in one of the most remote parts of the country.
This is clearly a game changer. Perhaps maybe that viewer who is still not understanding maybe the jargon and the technical specifications of the loon, what kind of advantage is this person going to get if they're hooked up to the loon vis-a-vis the traditional technologies of getting data?
Look, I think it's important to understand. If you're already in an area that has got terrestrial coverage, then there's no benefit to the loon service. This service is geared towards areas that are underserved, where people don't have the benefit of terrestrial base stations, that the only way they can receive a data signal, a 4G data signal, is via the loon service, right? So, and again, so these are sparsely populated areas, remote areas, difficult terrain areas, where across the country people live in all these places. So what this then helps us achieve is universal coverage, right? And allows us to get people who are on the wrong side of the digital divide, meaning they're on the side that doesn't have access to data, to internet. We are now able to connect them to the internet. They're able to connect with you on email, on the web, on WhatsApp, on Facebook. They're able to make Facebook calls, WhatsApp calls, FaceTime calls, you name it, because they now have access to data. But if you're already somebody who's in Nairobi, you have a 4G device, there are plenty of terrestrial base stations which will give you very strong, much better signal than you get from Loon. So really it's about getting people in who are outside the digital divide.
And in that point as well, since you speak about the rural areas, the places with tough terrain, of course the users will need devices that are compatible. Are we seeing Telecom Kenya go inside the woods there and provide some devices for these people?
We're deep in the woods, in the woods and down in the shrubs, because we understand that one of the biggest challenges will be device, especially smartphones, right? And so we are right now in conversations to be able to see if we can secure inexpensive, or should I say less expensive devices, smartphones, which can be able to receive a 4G signal. And in the next few weeks, say by the end of next month or early September, we shall be able to have devices that we shall be able to distribute for lower prices than you typically find in the market today.
So I'm very curious. Am I able to maybe track a balloon on my phone, and maybe if I see my network is bad, I run and go to a hill and...
Well, you will not be able to tell which balloon is giving you a signal, because you can't tell if it's a terrestrial signal or aerial base station unless you're in an area where clearly there are no terrestrial base stations. But even then, it will be difficult to identify which particular balloon. But your average flight tracking app on your phone can be able to help you view the balloons.
Let's now perhaps now ease in and shift gears a little bit into the landscape at this time of COVID-19. especially for the company Telecom Kenya. How is Telecom Kenya, navigating the headwinds of these challenges?
Look, Alan, I think much like everybody else, whether they be corporate entities such as Telecom or as individuals, as Mugo, as Alan, we've all been hit by a pandemic that really came as a shocker to all of us and shocked our systems as individuals, as corporates, as economies, and globally. And I think that what you're seeing across the world pertains to Kenya as well. So as Telecom Kenya, as soon as this pandemic hit our shores, we took measures early on. Even before the national guidelines came into place, we took certain measures to say, cessation of travel, business travel. For now, we've said to ourselves, no need for any business travel, even within country, unless, of course, it's for technical reasons. I mean, we have engineers who have to take care of our fiber and our base stations across the country, and they have to move around with people who man our shops, right? But for them, we have ensured personal protective equipment is supplied in adequate quantities and safely so for our shop managers as well as make sure that in those shops and the establishments at our Telecom, we have isolation centers. We have guidelines that we published a long time ago all over our various offices and establishments, which talk about social distancing, using of facial coverage like masks, how you use them, and especially at this point in time when the president announced a few weeks ago that parts of the economy are going to be opened up. Now the numbers are beginning to rise, and so I keep cautioning staff that we must be ever more careful now than even when it was a month or 2 months ago, because the infection rate is much higher. And I think I'd like to commend our viewers to actually adhere to those social distancing guidelines as we are doing right now, Alan. So we've had to deal with the same issues and in the same way that everybody else is doing it. We started a telecommuting program in March. So most of our staff and employees are working from home, and we had to equip them appropriately, virtual private network devices for them to be able to work from home. We are fully cognizant of the challenges of that. We all live in different types of environments with different signal levels, different power distribution. We've got kids at home now who are not in school, and that is an extra burden on our staff and employees, because their primary duty and responsibility over and above being a Telecom employee is to be a father or a mother. And so we make sure that we allow them to be able to be good mothers and fathers, especially now, because there are fewer people who are helping parents take care of their kids. There are no more school teachers. In some cases, there are no nannies, and they still have to do a job at the same time. So we've had to completely review the way we go about doing our business. We have regular check-ins. I have three times weekly check-ins with my direct reports and ask about their people and their families. And so far, we've been blessed not to have any cases within the Telecom workforce, but who knows? With the way things are going, it's likely to happen. So we are ready for when that happens. More and more we are seeing people close to us, loved ones, testing positive. So I keep saying to my employees and to my colleagues at Telecom, we can never be too careful. And I think it's important that we adhere to the social distancing guidelines.
You've touched on consumer behavior and, of course, consumer relief for your customers. Maybe expound a little more on the consumer behavior, on how vis-a-vis before COVID and now during COVID times, how subscribers are behaving using your products, and are they latching in more, and how are they doing it and for how long? How is that consumer behavior doing?
So we've had a lot of clients and customers coming to us. They've moved away from their offices to their homes and asking us to sort of give them relief. And we've done that with our customers. We've given them relief. We've also, as a corporate, decided to do a bit in terms of helping society. So as we speak right now, we are offering free services, free Wi-Fi services to the National Coronavirus Healthcare facility at Bagathi. We are also doing the same at the Ministry of Health, where the task force chaired by the Cabinet Secretary is housed, free Wi-Fi services. We've also adapted to what our clients and customers need. So we have the Somana Elimu, Somana Telecom, Elimu bundles. We have Afia Record, which is sort of an initiative that allows healthcare records across counties to be collected into an electronic database, sorted out, which allows for easy electronic manipulation of those records and therefore quick response to different ailments as they happen across the counties. We've also initiated Dial a Daktari that allows you to call a doctor right from your own home and get, a doctor being able to consult with you while you're in the confines of your home, and you only would need to leave that home if the doctors are judged that was required. And that service also has an ambulance service coming with it. So we've had to do quite a number of things, both for our key stakeholders, employees, customers, suppliers, for the country at large.
Finally, perhaps you can speak to our viewers and tell them what kind of new innovations are we going to see from Telecom Kenya? Because, of course, technology is exciting and it's what has been keeping people going through this time. What kind of innovations should we look forward to?
Obviously, case in point, Exhibit A is what we've just been discussing, the aerial base stations. For the first time, we are the first telco in the world to deploy aerial base stations in a commercial setting, and we're very proud of that. And that is just the beginning of more cutting-edge initiatives that you will come to see. Some which we're formulating as we speak to adapt to the COVID scenario, some to address what has been a dearth of connectivity for people across the country for many years, which I think we want to work towards eradicating. So you'll find us in the obviously our basic service being connecting people. That will continue to be our major area of innovation, and connecting people with better quality services, better value for money, frankly speaking. But as the economy, as society begins to move from a physical contact world to a lower touch, lower contact existence, we will have to come up with applications and with means by which they can be able to easily function in that area. And therefore, we are partnering with different people for these kinds of applications. So watch this space.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to us about the exciting world of telecoms and the technology connected to it. Thank you very much. Yes, we have been speaking to the Executive Director and CEO of Telecom Kenya, just giving us insights on the telco space and the exciting technologies that are upcoming. Even during this time of doom and gloom, there is still hope for the future in technology. My name is Alan Naoko. Back to you in studio.
Let's now have a look at sports. The National Olympic Committee of Kenya, NOC, distributed training equipment to various sporting disciplines, including the women's rugby team, women's volleyball team, boxing, taekwondo players Thursday at RFUA grounds in Nairobi to aid their preparations for the postponed Tokyo Olympic Games set for July 23rd to 8th August 2021. By the time of the cancellation of this year's Olympic Games, brought about by the outbreak of coronavirus in March 2020, Kenya had already qualified several sports to the Games, including the women's and men's rugby sevens team, the women's volleyball team, taekwondo, and 2 boxers. Construction of a sports academy in Nambale sub-county in Busia County by former Tottenham Hotspurs midfielder Victor Wanyama, who now plays for Montreal Impact of Canada, has commenced in a move aimed at nurturing sports talent. The multi-million spectacular sports facility located in a 22 hectares piece of land in a Kisumu area is expected to be complete by December this year.
Site contractor at Victor Wanyama Academy, Maurice Ndalina, has revealed that the academy will be hosted in a 22 hectares piece of land in a Kisumu area. The state-of-the-art complex will house 4 modern fields, each with training facilities for sports trainees. Ndalila said that the pits will be able to host international matches, a boost to the region and the country.
Kamilisha mradi huu ni by mwezi wa Disemba, tutakuwa tumeshapeana na michezo itakuwa inashaanza kufanywa hapa. 50 students, the first accommodation for the first load, 50 students. Now the second, it will depend with the choice of the client himself. Kulingana uwanja pia na hekari zenye ziko hapa, nafikiri 10,000 wanaweza toshea kwa hii uwanja. Ya hii itakuwa uwanja ya kipekee, si hata pia tu ya ligi hapa Kenya, hata zile ligi za ngambo. Kuna ile inasakuja hapa na inajumuika na wengine kufanya mazoezi.
The academy will revolutionize sports training and education in the country while providing key sporting infrastructure to the country. The construction of the facility has come at a time when the country is fighting the spread of coronavirus and has created job opportunities for youth drawn from the area who have been in difficult times trying to make their ends meet.
Ningependa kutoa shukrani kwa hii project kuleta kwa kijiji chetu, maana imecreate job opportunity kwa youth. Imebadilisha maisha sababu at least nikija hapa, natoka hapa nikijua kuwa nimepata riziki yangu ya siku.
Watapata nao pia cha kuanzia maisha, mapato ambayo itawaweka mbele na kuleta maendeleo.
Frederick Muki for Channel 1 Sports.
Well, it's been a 1.5 hours of marathon, but the beauty of it is that you know what's happening. Thank you indeed for your time. My name is O'Brien Kimani. You have been watching Business Insight. Remember, Inside Government is coming up next in a short while. Tonight we are discussing the reopening of higher education institutions like universities and colleges, which is expected to start sometimes in September. The question is, are they ready for this timeline? We are talking to Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Zach Kinodi. It's a candid discussion. You definitely don't have to miss these. But before we get there, we have the weather, and the good old lady of weather is here. Where are you? Oh, today she's not here, but she's coming up next. And it's been a beautiful day today, actually. The weather felt like summertime is back. Is this the real thing? Well, I don't know, but Muchuma will be coming later on here with the weather report. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Great O'Brien. Good evening, everyone, from wherever you are. This is Channel 1 Weather Updates. A very warm welcome. My name is Irene Mchuma Odem. Scattered wet conditions are underway in the capital, Central Highlands, the Lake Basin region, and northwestern parts of the country. This, as the rest of the country, is covered with scattered clouds, and that is how it will be for the rest of the night. Tomorrow morning, the capital will be characterized with cool and cloudy weather conditions, a different scenario from what we experienced today. This will later on give way to sunny intervals. Similar weather conditions will be experienced in Meru and Nyeri. It will be cloudy in Mandera and Garissa, as much as sunny conditions will dominate the northeastern parts of the country. In the northwestern parts of the country, there will be rains, especially around Lodwar. There will be cloudy conditions in the southeastern lowlands, as much as sunny intervals will prevail. In the afternoon, we'll see an increase of wet conditions in the Lake Basin region and western parts of the country. These are showers accompanied by thunderstorms. A different scenario will be experienced in the northeastern parts of the country. At the same time, the coastal strip will experience sunny conditions. It will be a warmer day in the capital. Tomorrow, highs of 24 degrees Celsius. The highest temperatures across the country will be experienced in Mandera at 33 degrees Celsius. And for you in Kisumu, expect maximum of 27 degrees Celsius. That is how weather is shaping up in the home country. Let's now cross the borders and have a look at the international forecast. Be warm and see you tomorrow. God willing.
Namshukuru Mungu kwa sababu yeye ni mwema, yeye ni mkuu siku zote. Ningependa tu kukujulisha kwamba kwa majina ninaitwa Nixon Opati. Mimi ni kasisi katika kanisa la Jesus Assemblies of Christ pale Mathare North. Siku ya leo ningependa tuzungumze jambo kwa maandiko kuhusu rehema za Mungu. Nitasoma kitabu cha Yoeli 2:12. Nasema, hata sasa asema Bwana, nirudieni mimi kwa mioyo yenu yote, kwa kufunga, kwa kulia, kwa kuombolea. Rarueni mioyo yenu wala si mavazi yenu, mkamrudie Bwana Mungu wenu, kwa maana yeye ndiye mwenye neema, amejaa huruma, si mwepesi wa hasira, ni mwingi wa rehema, naye hugairi mabaya. 14. Ni nani ajuaye kwamba hata rudi na kugeuka na kutuachia baraka nyuma yake? Naam, sadaka ya unga na sadaka ya kinywaji kwa Bwana Mungu wenu. Neno la leo linatujulisha kwamba haya ni mazungumzo ya Mungu ambaye alikuwa anazungumza kupitia mtumishi wake anaitwa Yoeli. Mungu anasema kwamba tuweze kumrudia kwa kulia na kuombolea. Mpendwa mtazamaji, mahali popote ulipo, unajua sana kile ambacho kinaendelea ulimwengu mzima. Tumekumbwa na janga na watu wengi wamekata tamaa ya maisha. Watu wengi wameweza kufifia katika maisha yao. Lakini nimekuja hapa kukutia moyo ya kwamba unapomrudia Mungu kwa kuomba, wacheni tukaombe sana wapendwa, maana Mungu anatuahidi ya kwamba kwetu sisi hakuna anayejua kile ambacho atakachokifanya. Ninajua ya kwamba wengi wamehangaika, wengi wamepita katika mapito. Hata nchi mzima pamoja na serikali tumekimbia huku na huku kuona jinsi ambavyo tutaweza kutatua swala hili. Lakini tukirudi kwa maandiko yanatukumbusha kwamba tukazidi kuomba. Mpendwa popote ulipo, ninajua kwamba wakati mwingine umeingia kazini, ninajua wakati mwingine unafanya biashara yako, wengine ambao tunasafiri. Neno la Mungu linatuambia kwamba tumrudie tu kwa maombi. Na wakati unaomba, Mungu wetu yuko tayari kukusaidia. Mungu anatusikiliza wakati wowote tunamuita. Biblia inasema kwamba yeye sio kiziwi asisikie kile ambacho tunachokiomba. Kwa hivyo tunapomrudia kwa ukweli, tunapomrudia kwa kulia, tunapomrudia kwa huruma, Bwana Mungu wetu ataonyesha rehema zetu, na ninajua ya kwamba tutaweza kuokolewa katika jangwa hili ambalo limekumba serikali mzima pamoja na nchi mzima. Basi kufikia hapo, ningependa tu niruhusu ili nikaweze kuomba na wewe. Tuamini. Baba, katika jina la Yesu Kristo, ninakushukuru, ninakuinua, ninakuabudu. Asubuhi ya leo pokea sifa katika kiti chako cha enzi. Baba, ni wakati mzuri, ninasimama kwa pengo kwa sababu ya nchi kwa jumla. Baba, rais wetu pamoja na mawaziri wake pamoja na mfasi wake Jehova, Bwana Yesu, pamoja na serikali kwa jumla, Jehova, ninawaweka mkononi mwako. Ninawafunika na damu yako nchi mzima. Yesu Kristo, ninajua ya kwamba kuna ambaye ananitizama asubuhi ya leo. Wacha ukazidi kumfunika na damu yako, ukazidi kumuinua, ukazidi kumtendea. Ninajua kwamba wewe ni Mungu wa rehema na unaenda kuonyesha rehema zako. Naomba na kuamini pia kwa jina la Yesu Kristo. Amen.
Vera Beauty College. Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret, Thika, and Meru. Did you know that we are a TVET-approved institution? We offer courses in fashion design, interior design in soft furnishing, event decoration, flower arrangement, event planning, hairdressing, barbering and dreadlocks, beauty therapy, makeup, nail technology, spa massages, teaching skills, TOT, solo business management, and many more. Register now and visit our website on www.verabeautycollege.com. You can also call on 0725 923 550 Nairobi branch, 0728 087 689 Eldoret branch, 0722 22 7428 Thika branch, 0725 000 706 Meru branch. Vera Beauty and Fashion College, a TVET approved institution.
It's 3 years since inception of the current Nairobi City County Government. Health, roads and infrastructure, education and social services development are some of the major achievements made by the Nairobi City County Government Administration. Join us as we take you through the journey of the milestones since inception in August 2017.
Hamjambo Wakenya wenzangu. Mimi ni Mheshimiwa Mize. Ninalotaka kuambia ni kuwasihi ya kwamba korona iko. Na ili tupigane nayo na tuishinde, ukitoka nje, ukifika kule nje, kuna hata maji yamewekwa nje na serikali. Unanawa mikono kwa maji na sabuni. Na maji yenyewe yawe ni yale ya kutiririka. Pale unaponawa, unaangalia usafi wako wa mikono, unaosha huku nje ya viganja, unasugua katikati ya vidole, pia huku kwenye kucha, manake uchafu wajifiche huku kwenye kucha. Uoshe, kisha sunza na maji yanayotiririka. Maji yakimwaika, kusema kweli tutashinda. Tuzingatie na tutii sheria. Korona tunaishinda na baadaye maisha yatarudi kama kawaida wa Kenya.
Jumapili hii kwenye runinga ya KBC, ungana naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu kuanzia saa 1 hadi saa 2 asubuhi.
Ningetaka nikwambie, our Jehovah God, because the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today and forevermore. He is able to take you to a place of abundance. He is able to take you to Rehoboth in the name of Jesus Christ.
Kipindi ni neno la neema, ukiletewa naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu. Usikose.
My trust is in you.
Well, the government is targeting the technical education and vocational training to address the job skills issue that continues to haunt the Kenyan job market, as well as increase enrollment to about 20% by the year 2030. That was before coronavirus. And the question is, how will the pandemic impact TVET in the country, and what is the way forward? Joining us on Inside Government is Chief Administrative Officer or Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Zach Kenothia. Thank you so very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, help me understand this. I mean, before coronavirus, you know, every plan was going according to the script. You know, the enrollment numbers, you know, were rising. Funding to TVET was seeing an increase of about 5% every year. Mm-hmm. But now here we are in a situation whereby students are not going to class. The issues of social distancing as well, you know, must be adhered to. How have TVETs been impacted by coronavirus?
Thank you. TVET has been affected the same way. Basic university education has been affected because its main client have been grounded. That is students. So without students, then there is no content delivery, because our trainers are standby. They have been with us, and I mean, we continue paying them just to keep them afloat. But students have been forced to be home by the directive of the government to close all the schools. So that means all the machinery in these institutions, the construction of this institution, the completion, the continued equipping have been going on. Only two things have stopped. One, the attendance of the students, and second, the capitation from government. What we send to these schools was withheld because we sent it to the head. 1 shilling, 1 head. But now these heads are off. So we have withheld the money. That is how TVET has been affected, because operations are off, examinations are off, practical and industrial linkages off. So it has stopped just like the others. But I hope we're going to resume soon.
And soon, I mean, we have seen, the Education Cabinet Secretary insinuating that, they're likely to go back to class, sometimes in September, and which is about 2 months from now. When you look at the laid down guidelines by the Ministry of Health, for institutions of higher learning to resume classes, are you convinced that TVET can resume classes by September?
Yes, thank you. I'm convinced that all our technical training institutes, all our national polytechnics, and all the vocational education centers can resume. And my conviction is based on statistics, is based on facts, and the rationale of the Ministry of Health protocols guided by WHO. And this is why. The basic reason why TVET, which is tertiary education, was allowed by His Excellency the President to continue and open as from September. By the way, they are not opening in September. They are opening as from September, because many of them are not ready, and we will not allow the reopening and resumption of work for colleges and institutions that will not have fulfilled these health concerns. We are calling them Ministry of Health guidelines. This is because their formula of operation is easy, that their calendar is not uniform. Unlike basic education, pre-primary, primary, and secondary education, it's uniform. The year of operation, uniform exams, uniform teaching mode, uniform assessment, uniform. But for tertiary education, it is not uniform. And that is the greatest strength upon which we underpinned the return to normalcy. Why is this so? Because all the colleges, all the universities have their year of operation, admission, assessment, assessing their practical skills, mapped up by their board of operation. Could be Senate, could be councils, could be board of management. So for TVET, they will only be allowed to return, as the CS has insisted, once they fulfill in writing and upon our inspection the guidelines. And these are easy. One, every institution must have clean, flowing, reliable source of water. That one, we are not compromising. Besides that, water must be put at strategic places within the college. That is in the classrooms, for those that have boarding facility, near boarding facilities, and inside, and then at the gate. That one for water, there is no compromise. We continue to insist, for sanitization purposes, it must be non-contacting. So they must get gadgets that are non-contacting. If you want to dispense soap, that's a detergent, you don't touch anything. You just press on your feet. And then for water, you press on your feet to have yourself avoid this multiple touching of the source of opening water. This one, by the way, for me to report to you, for our TVET institutions, an overwhelming majority of them can produce them. So there's no question of even buying. All our national polytechnics, 11 in number, and we have seen them. I actually have a sample that I got from Mary University. They are making them. Many universities are using their departments of engineering to produce them.
So that's not a challenge.
It's not a challenge. The issue of social distancing.
Is the elephant in the room?
I don't know how we are going to get this elephant out of the room, because first, think about tuition area, and then think about boarding area. And this is what we have said. Every class will have 2 learners at a distance of 1.5 meters while sitting down, from middle of the head to the middle of the head, not desks. Middle of the head to the other middle of the head. That means every student must be separated from his or her colleague at 1.5 meters. This one we have inspected, and we will continue inspecting. Once we are satisfied as a ministry that they can resume, it will be the responsibility now of the managers of these institutions to maintain the status quo as we will have left it at that time. For boarding facilities, it will be a bed must be separated equally at a distance of 1.5. But remember, many of these beds are double deckers. Actually, in high school, I have had some are triple deckers. But for our institution of higher learning, including where I went to school, University of Nairobi, it is double deckers. So this is it. Per one bed, or rather one decker, which has both cannot be used. You choose the upper decker, then the lower decker have to be sacrificed. You choose the lower, then you cancel the upper. That means the next set of bed, if the learner was sleeping in the lower decker, then the next the learner can only sleep at the upper decker. And then it is zigzagged in that form. If you are sleeping lower, the other one will be upper, then upper, lower, then lower, upper. This way, we will minimize, even in the unlikely event that one will sneeze, it will ensure that these droplets do not have enough time within 1.5 meters to get to you, so that even if they were to sneeze high, it will be longer before they can get to the lower deck. But I would say this is the most painful area, because you have to sacrifice students.
But Zach, when you look at our institutions of higher learning,
yes,
there were definitely, the space was absolutely not made for this kind of social distancing.
Yes, by all means, yeah.
And when you look at the over 1,500 vocational training centers, vis-a-vis the number of students in these institutions, it is clearly evident that, these kind of measures are not likely to work. So are we winking in dark?
I would say the name we called this kind of reopening is fist. We are opening in phases. It is not possible to do what we are doing under the circumstances we are in and achieve the same result we used to. So if these TVET institutions were churning out, you could say 10,000 students per year, then it is not going to be possible. It is 5,000.
What will happen to the other 5,000?
They will wait for another year to graduate. But this will be done in a manner that it doesn't inconvenience people. So if you came for a semester again and then you finish the year, you will come for a semester, go home, wait for the others to come in that semester, and then they will go home and then you return. Your year will be finished. It is faced. Every Senate and every council has been empowered to sit down and come up with modalities that guarantees equity, yet delays all. It is a delay by will. You will accept to be delayed, yes, but we have no other option. Because if you bring everybody back, then it is not possible to maintain the health as is required by the health ministry. But if we are able to open fixedly, then we are going to guarantee some form of progress, but not as quickly as we would want. This is the challenge of the time, and you called it well. This is an elephant in the room. We don't know how it got in the room, and we have to demolish the wall to get it off. But we do not want to do it. So why don't we thin the elephant and get it off the door in the end? This is what we are trying to do. It is not the best, it is not the most effective, but it is the only option that the government has now to ensure there is some form of normalcy, that we do not crash down all institutions of higher learning. So I would want to say students will be the greatest victims of this pandemic. All over, from primary, you can see others lost a whole year. At least basic education have lost a year. We are not even discussing that. Universities must as much be willing to give way, because we will not return all of them at the same time. TVET institutions, the same. We will not return everybody.
And how does this impact a student academic year?
Delay. That's the only impact. You'll be delayed. You'll not be denied, but you'll be delayed.
What about the cost?
Well, I would say the cost, we looked at it as a ministry and said financial cost has not been disrupted, because you will not pay for a year you never attended school. You will only pay for the time you go to school. But now, in terms of graduation year, the plans you had, you want to do this after graduation, this one will definitely be affected. People will not finish the time they wanted to. But those that are able to finish will return, do exams, and then they would be given their certificates. Graduation ceremonies have been allowed to be virtual. Universities can conduct virtual graduation as long as you guarantee offering of certificates to these students. It's been allowed. Anyway, it is abnormal times. That's why we are applying abnormal strategies just to keep us going, because we can't grind the whole country. We can't grind the whole education infrastructure. Something must be, something must be given, which is less risky, maybe to, the political stability, I would have to say it that way. Because if we close down everything, then it would seem like other countries are giving the disconnected stories of what they are doing, but ours seem like we are doing nothing. So we have to keep going and keep learning and keep listening and keep adjusting until we can get something that all of us can agree with.
I mean, this crisis, cannot be blamed on students. It cannot be blamed on parents. Yes. It cannot be blamed on teachers. Yes. But somehow, some form of blame can be apportioned to the government for not expanding our educational infrastructures. And that's why we are finding ourselves in such a bigger crisis, than other developed economies, like South Korea, and Norway and so much. So if my academic year is delayed, how then do you caution the parents or guardians and students from incurring extra expenditure in school?
One, the government has been operating on an overdrive as far as expanding learning institution is concerned. As far as funding public institutions that offer education is concerned, the government has been on overdrive. No other government in the post-independence Kenya has invested so much in the education institutions.
But a lot of investment has been going towards, ensuring enrollment.
Enrollment and also infrastructure. Infrastructure has been, actually there is a vote today.
But when you look at, the percentage-wise in terms of enrollment vis-a-vis percentage-wise in terms of infrastructural expansion, I mean, the equilibrium is heavily tilted towards enrollment.
And for a simple reason. Because now government, by the advice of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which has made education a constitutional entitlement. Basic education is now constitutional. It is not a question of whether you want to attain Form 4 certificate, as it is now. It is a question of law. It is a must for you to.
It is a constitutional right.
Yeah, so everybody is now being flushed out from homes. Not that children are lesser than they are now, but people are not going to school in the accelerated form as it is now. Remember, it is now that we are implementing what we are calling 100% transition. Everybody must go to school after class 8, assuming that everybody now, FPE having been in operation for the longest time, now going to secondary school is also now mandatory because it is now free day secondary school. Chiefs and public administration, provincial administration so-called, has been flushing students out of homes. Go to school. So enrollment was bound to increase. But at the backdrop of this, the government is strategically looking forward, decided to start now upgrading and advancing and expanding infrastructure to fit, the projected high rise of numbers of students in the coming days. And this is what has been happening. All secondary schools have a direct vote of money that we release from here that goes straight into expanding classrooms, laboratories, ablution blocks. That money must go into that only. If we send 1 million to every school for that purpose, it cannot be used for anything else except for development. So build classes. Our development partners, especially World Bank, has been putting money on infrastructure because enrollment, we can manage as a government. But we need even friends and goodwill. Budget is shrinking, but we need people to bring us closer to giving us infrastructure that can feed our children. So, to come to your earlier point, the government cannot be blamed for this pandemic. It could be blamed perhaps for slowed progress of advancement in terms of structures and enrollment before, not now. This pandemic has disrupted even the most progressive democracies, as you have mentioned. Remember, South Korea returned children to school after 17 days, closed down all the schools because of infections. They realized the more you bring children together, it is not easy to keep them off from social distancing. 60, I think there were 68 succumbed into infection, not dying. Then closed school. Germany, the same. And you know, these are people who can learn even at home. But the model of learning in the 21st century has not been developed to fit virtual learning. We are used to four walls and a roof. That is a form. That is when environment. That's the best environment that guarantees utmost learning for children. So what the government is doing can be commended. The loss of years, the loss of time, the loss of money cannot be blamed squarely on government, because everybody can see that this one was a pandemic that nobody was ready for. If it was hunger or thirst, we could say our African governments are as they are called. They are ineffective, they are careless, they are whatever. But now, even the most advanced, look at what Trump is doing. He cannot know whether to sue the districts, mayors, or what to do with the schooling.
When we moved from analog to digital, we took the opportunity to share our talanta. And the rise of local radio represented our voices mtaani. And now, in these difficult times, free educational shows are helping our children learn from home. And new ICT and educational platforms are going to make sure that no one is left behind.
Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako. The Communications Authority of Kenya. Opening your world.
Every year, Northern Nomadic Disability Organization has had activities lined up as a way of creating disability awareness in the pastoralist community. Unfortunately, things are no longer the same with COVID-19 in the picture. He has been forced to find alternative ways to continue communicating and serving his community in the face of coronavirus.
Alikuanga mzima, alikuanga anajifanyia kazi, alikuanga anajitegemea na watoto wake. Sijui ili ugonjwa ilitokanga wapi. Inamuomba sasa ni mimi namsaidia kila kitu, chakula, nyumba, mpaka mtoto wake ni mimi.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Mimi si mtoto. You know very well that was my idea and you ended up taking it. You have a lot of explaining to do.
Madam Julia.
Can you guys believe that he was hooking me up with his father?
He is not my father.
Aye?
Can we move on to a more valuable topic?
This Joan?
Oh, Joan, she's...
Can you not talk to me, please? Thank you. I'd wash my tongue if I were you.
What I'm trying to say is that you can give me that better. You know I can do others.
You know, the United States, another bag of chips altogether. But I mean, let's stick with the South Korean model. I mean, you know, students there, they have lost about, on average, 15 days of classes. In Kenya, they're going to lose about almost 200 days of classes.
But South
so
Korea,
clearly you cannot compare the two.
But again, when you say South Korea has lost 15 days, that would mean there was a time they were going to school before they closed, or that means there was a time they will be going to school.
No, since the pandemic. Since the pandemic.
On average. And how many are their days? You could tell, because some of these models of learning are different. Our system, we are changing it. And it will not be hours oriented. It will be action oriented. So hours of class are likely to be less than they are now. You know, for you and I, the system we went through is about pumping in the head of a child as much learning with as least time as possible. So that means we end up with aggregated time, which keeps us to school more, even after the government sanctioned time. That's why we had tuitions. That's why we had to go for weekend, many things. So if we lose 200 days, O'Brien, and I tell you, if we lose 200 days, it would be better, even if there were 300 days, to be lost than losing a child. And that is why that was a foundation upon which we decided, please, let's forget that there was 2020 in the calendar of academy and get 2019 and 2021. If our children will ever question us of what happened to 2020, we will say it was eaten by dogs. That year was never available. Because as you can see, nobody can be able to guarantee life. The president gave us clear instruction. Whatever you do, that committee, ensure you do not risk the children's lives. And he told us he was voted for many reasons. But primarily, as a democratic government, his is to protect lives and property. In this case, he's protecting the lives of the children. So we said whatever we do, we wanted to bring children back. And South Korea and Norway provided us with 2 scenarios of return, test, let's see how it goes. We realized under the current situation, if we return in September, which is our peak, projected peak time for COVID, on average, because children are more strong, they have better immunity to deal with this disease. On average, there could be in 1,000, 2 children succumbing to death, just 2, which is a very insignificant number. So the people who are in the room were asked, who will choose to be the mother or the father of these 2 children? If we get to which child to die, in these 2 out of 1,000, 2 will die. Which 2? Because 2 will die, yes, but if these 2 are to die, who will choose to be the parent? That this was your child who has died out of 1,000. Everybody left the room. Nobody was going to accept to be the mother or the father of this succumbing child. So we said, then one child cannot die. We can't afford even death of 1 child. These children, again, with infections, will go home and hug their parents and their grandparents, exposing them to the extreme risk of this disease. So closing was not about children getting infected or dying. It was as much also, where are they going after school? They are going home, where they're going to get their kinsmen. What if they kill them?
I mean, it has been increasing at a very significant rate. What happens in a situation whereby infection rate continues to climb even as we get to September, October, and even November?
I would say the only reason that can explain why we have surging infections is the fact that testing is now being broad-based. So much testing is done. That is why we are getting many. It is estimated there are as many infected people as testings can be done. That is estimated all over the world, including those that are testing more than we are doing. So for TVET and universities and teachers training colleges, these are adults or semi-adults. And we have said it is easier for them to adhere to the laid out protocols that keeps them off from infection than it is for others. So let's discuss here. Once these colleges and universities have complied with the Ministry of Health protocols, it is assumed from us that they are going to maintain these guidelines to keep them away from infections. If they don't, we can as much close and say every sector stands suspended. But we do not want to do that. The assumption that the president also opened the economy was based on that fact and saying, you people are mature. Let me open Nairobi, come in and get out, but take responsibility because you are mature. And you can see Kenyans are increasingly, especially those that are near Nairobi, taking personal responsibility. And that is why before you came in, you had a mask. I had my own. After this interview, we returned them. Everybody is being sanitized across here. Wherever you go, even in your place of work, everybody is being sanitized. And it is simply because now as an adult, it is upon me. If I get sick, it will be upon myself and my people. And the government will not solve. So for TVET students and university, higher education, it is our plea based on rationality that we can allow you to do it, please, so that also your lives can move on. But do the simple thing, from the government point of appeal, do the simple thing and sanitize, wear the mask, take care. If you have nothing to do in class, don't go to school. If you have a class, maintain your time within that class time and go after class. Take care of yourself because this thing can bring us a havoc, especially medical havoc in this country. And that's why the government, again, through the president, has convened an extraordinary session for governors to ask them, how are you talking to your people to take care? Because we cannot see a return of lockdown. The country is already ailing from economic squeezing. Let us just do something. From TVET, from polytechnics, from teachers training colleges and universities, maintain the list of all these protocols, and you will operate. You know, the death rate for corona is not as high as other diseases. But now we do not know what to do in case there's an en masse infection and pandemonium amongst populations. That's why we're saying, even if corona is there, everybody knows it is in the streets now. But don't expose yourself carelessly, because you do not know what to do if you outnumber the facilities that government has already put in place.
You know, as we wind up,
yes,
I want you to paint for us, a picture of how learning will resume starting from September.
For TVET and higher education, This is how it is. First of all, we have had sittings with the principals of these institutions, and the vice chancellors have met in their own rights and under us. And we have asked them to simulate to us, how are we going to resume? Suppose you have fulfilled all the protocols of health. Then they say, that question is self-explanatory. Because the way we are doing for 1,000 is what we will do for 10,000, is what we will do for 500. When the children are back to class, or rather the learners are back to class, our trainers, our lecturers are ready. And we will continue dispensing from where we left. They have reorganized the curricular delivery. They have reorganized the mode of delivering, which is, remains now for those classes that will be social distanced. They have come up with way of, what do you say, of increasing the voice and reducing interaction. There's no need of going to students to see what they are doing. As long as there can be a projector, every student can be required to make just something out of it. The teachers and the school can provide means of casting assignments, if any. The lecturers just come, deliver content, send them to the laboratories under strict guidelines so that they do not also gather and get themselves crowded. The simulation was done by universities, and it was agreeable to us. It was done by TVET, because TVET, as you know, is more skill. It is not more of theory. It is more of skill. If you are learning how to make, how to lay pipes as a plumber, once you are through with the theory, which is very little amount of learning, then you go to it. We have told them to stagger this kind of practicals and sanitize the materials of practicals. And that one, we will hold directly the managers of these institutions and the trainers. So the learning will continue as it used to. This time with more space, now because of social distancing, with the concentrated effort on defeating infections amongst the students, teacher-student, and again student-teachers, because student could as much carry the disease to the teacher.
Very well.
Teachers will be tested. That I need to tell you. Or the trainers will be tested, lecturers will be tested, and these are responsibilities.
When their testing starts?
No, that one, we have allowed councils and boards of management to liaise with the local health operators to ensure.
Have you given them timelines?
No, we have told them their timelines is as of when they will resume. If your college is ready for resumption on 15th of September, then we expect within that time the learners, the trainers will have been tested. If we say it is 1st of September, like some which are ready, their lecturers will be tested around 17th. So yeah, just to get the results. It is about now the responsibility of Board of Management, councils and senates to ensure that everything that facilitates return to school to normalcy will be done. It is upon them, but we will be giving an oversight as a ministry to ensure our learners are not exposed to the risk of infections.
Zach, asante sana for your time.
Thank you, O'Brien.
Thank you very much. Very well.
Asante sana.
Zach Kinodhi is the Chief Administrative Officer or Secretary at the Ministry of Education, joining us tonight to give us a preview of how learning will resume starting this September for tertiary institutions, like technical training institutes and universities. And you have heard it actually from him. It's not going to be a walk in the park, but definitely it has to be done. You have been watching Inside Government. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you for your time. We'll see you again on Thursday. Good night.
episode of